What's good, everybody? What's up, man? This is Stephen Qualls II, a.k.a. Mr. Qualified. It's your boy! You feel me? And you probably recognize this setup. It's because I did an interview with my boy Dante Nash here earlier. Definitely go check that out if you haven't. But we're here again because we have a friend of his, a new friend of mine, and another homegrown product here. And I'll let him introduce himself, and then we'll get right into the interview.
Yo, what's up, everybody? My name is Marquis Mays. I am a filmmaker, editor. I do a lot of shit. And I'm from Milwaukee, so yeah, I'm glad to be here, bro.
Of course, man. No, definitely glad to have you. I'm glad Dante could set this connection up, man. Like I was telling him, since I saw even the promo for the Harlem film, because I wasn't able to catch it in the limited release time, but even just seeing that and seeing that somebody from Milwaukee put that together, it was just automatically respect and love from there. So kudos to that, and we'll definitely get deeper into that as the interview goes on. But I like to always start from the beginning. So with you, did you always know that filmmaking was a passion? Was that it from jump, or did that kind of develop later on in life?
Definitely developed later on in life. I always loved film though. So I always kind of had an affinity towards film. Like I grew up. One thing about Milwaukee is everybody knows this too. As a kid growing up here, you kind of want to make sure your parents at least want to make sure that you're busy during the summer, that you have something to do. And the thing is, my parents, as they're working throughout the week, obviously I'm getting on their nerves during the summer because there's nothing to do. My uncle would get me and all my cousins on a Saturday and take us out for the whole day and go to Mayfair. We would go to the movie theaters there, and we'll spend from 9 o'clock in the morning until probably 7 o'clock at night, just watching movies, sneaking into movies, watching movies all day, because my parents would just get this little nigga out the house, and do something safe. So we would go. Me and my cousins would go. We'll all go watch one movie together. And then for the rest of the day, my uncle would go see the action films. I'll be going to check out the animated shit. And my cousins would kind of just pick and choose what we wanted to go see. So I always kind of loved movies because of that reason. But it really didn't start until I got to college, where I seen it as an option, because I thought I was going to be I graduated in journalism, but I thought when I went to college that I'm going to be a broadcast journalist. I'm going to be, on screen. I didn't think that it would happen with me being behind the camera then, which I'm fucking with a lot more. But yeah, that's kind of how it kind of happened. It was when I got to college where I realized that, I can actually make films. And that's kind of what led me to where I am now.
Man, dog, that's so crazy you say that. Only because I went to, when I went to school, and I went to Mizzou for this reason, because I wanted to go into journalism. And I was going to be print because I wanted to write. So in high school, I wrote poetry. I was always a relatively gifted writer, so I thought that was gonna be my avenue of I can't play sports, so I'll write about it. It's the next best thing. But got to college and kind of learned that the way writing is looked at in the profession of journalism just wasn't what I wanted to do. Because growing up, all I watched was 30 for 30s, E60, so these very storytelling focused programs where it's if I was gonna do any type of journalism, it would be that, not so much the reportive or the investigative. So it was just crazy getting to college, and like you said, that's where you kind of learned that you liked being behind the camera more. For me, it was I kind of fell in love with the camera at first when I got to college. So just understanding that I can be behind putting these stories out there in a specific way, but then I also got comfortable being in front of the camera but helping somebody tell that story, which was a whole nother kind of hurdle in itself. But it's just so crazy you say that, because I think college is that time where even if you had a dream or an idea, you kind of really get to hone it and manifest whatever it's going to be, and it usually changes a little bit. But
I think with journalism, the thing about journalism that's crazy, and I kind of feel the same way, is we always have this perception of journalism where it's kind of they're put together really nice. There's this kind of charisma. There's this kind of presentation or performance that a journalist has, and that I think we were just attracted to the performance of it, the structure. And then when we got to college, I think what I went through, and probably similar to what you went through, was that big question of wait, actually none of this shit that they do you know, theoretically, and then also like, you know, on a level of like just how we live our lives critically makes sense.
Right.
I think the biggest thing I had an issue with when I went to journalism school, and mind you, I love the J School at Madison. Shout out to y'all are amazing. But I was forced to ask myself the biggest questions in college. Like, you know, okay, if you are going to be a journalist, you have to understand that objectivity is bullshit. It's, at least to me.
Man, no, most definitely. Most definitely.
Because it was difficult for me sometimes, especially, and you probably also know, especially Mizzou, being at the height of like the campus unrest that y'all were going through at the time. We were kind of in solidarity with y'all in that way as well at Madison. But it was crazy because they were calling for a lot of journalists, especially young journalists, to be very transparent and very objective. And I'm like, I cannot be objective about something that is subjectively affecting me and my people.
Man, listen.
So that's when I kind of rested on bringing in film and bringing in that journalistic mindset. So it's funny because a lot of the stuff that I do now, a lot of the docs that I make, and like it kind of led me to grad school, was from a journalism stance and a standpoint where it's just like, oh, I'm going to be investigative. I'm going to have these elements of journalism. But they're going to be very subjective. They're going to be very critical. They're going to be based on how I move and navigate as a black man. And then how many spaces I enter and what I need to learn, what I need to unlearn. So it's like all these questions that journalists have to ask. So I think journalists are so used to asking everybody else questions to figure out what they're getting, but it's kind of flipped because I'm just like, what questions am I asking myself?
Right.
And how am I producing that? And like this grand scheme of like how we live our lives and stuff, you know?
Yeah, no, most definitely. And I think that it's good to talk to somebody because I didn't feel away. Like, I love the J School at Mizzou. Like, it's top notch. Don't get me wrong. Anybody that's stuck with it, y'all are the GOATs. But I had no issue whatsoever when it was like, yeah, journalism is not what I'm doing anymore. Like, because my major, like digital storytelling, my ultimate major that I got my bachelor's in, is not under the J School, even though it would sound like it should be, and most people assume it is. But it fell under arts and science because it fell under film studies more so than anything. So, but it was still very much. It still had a lot of journalism aspects to it for sure. But I love what you said about the way we look at it, because especially like for me as a black man, like the first thing I kind of realized getting to it was like journalism is not the stereotypical industry of journalism. It's not set up for us to really be able to say what we want to say. Like, as much as a journalist you're supposed to have, you know, the utmost free speech, we don't really get to have that without, you know, repercussions and backlash that affect us professionally, probably, you know, more so than anybody else. And so when I looked at it and I said, what's a way I can tell the stories the way I want to tell them, and it be in a realm where somebody has to respect it and they just get it or they don't. I feel like sometimes in journalism, you don't have that freedom. You don't have the freedom to write something and just be like, you either gonna understand it or you not, but I'm gonna be able to do what I want to do. When you're writing, it's like you have to write in a specific script. You have to write a specific
language
way. It's specific language you have to use, whereas when I kind of learned that, okay, I would much rather interview somebody or, you know, script a documentary or some type of project around just using somebody's voice and their emotion, more than just having it being told, you know, through text. I was like, I needed to be that way, because the stories I was trying to tell were stories of people who persevere through obstacles that not everybody can relate to. And I need you to see the emotion. Like, I need you to understand when an athlete says, like, this sport is everything. I need you to be able to see and hear in their voice why they have to succeed in this sport, because if they don't, their family has nothing. Like, I need you to see that, because there's only so much of that you can get through text, in my personal opinion. So I'm glad you said that, because I feel like that's something that I won't say only few understand. Like, it's something that's hard to get, but I feel like unless you're in it and you're making those projects and you're doing those things consistently and having those conversations consistently, you just don't understand how important that can be.
And I think the structure of journalism, the structure and like the kind of, like I said, the routine, the language, and the structure of the medium itself is not made for us to understand. And I think that was the biggest thing that I wrestled with at Madison. You know, outside of journalism, UW Madison is such a research heavy school. So everybody at some point, whether they are an art major or they're doing engineering, they're going to participate in some type of research. So like I was doing that, right? And it got to a point where like I took this grad level class my junior year, just trying to see if I wanted to go to grad school or not. Don't do that. That was 15 weeks of pure just hell. But I took that grad level class to see if I really wanted to do it. And I think the thing that really wrestled with me was I got out of that class with, like this 23-page paper, and I wrote that shit and I did well. But then I started to look at the words, and I'm like, my parents won't understand these words. And this is not to like knock them, because I do think that the language of the academy is very anti-black to begin with.
Right.
So like, I think what got me was I went home and I was just like, yo, I did this thing that I'm really proud of. I stuck with this shit for 15 weeks. This language, this routine, this structure.
Right.
And my family they were so proud, and I think my people are so proud. They're so proud when they see us kind of hit those achievements, but I think it even sucks when they don't understand what those things mean as far as the language of it, because the language is already set up to like miss them anyways. So I'm using all these big ass words, and I'm using all this big ass language, and the academy and like academia is praising it, because it's like, oh yeah, you are hitting these new levels. But I'm just like, I'm using these big ass language talking about people that I know in real life. Right. And I think that kind of fucked me up, because I was just like, okay, so I'm a writer too. I went to grad school for cinema and media studies. So I went to do more writing. Right. And even then, I wrestled with that shit all the time. I'm just like, okay, so how can I make this stuff more accessible? How can I make the concepts and the things that I'm questioning about blackness, black people, my identity as a black man, and what that means for the other intersecting identities that exist within us? Like, I'm doing all these questions and I'm writing them out, but then I'm just like, but there's no way for me to make this accessible to my people unless I do it in the form of a film, or in the form of visual storytelling, like you were saying. So I do think that I give it to the journalists, though, because I do think currently, especially black women journalists, I think that they're fucking killing it right now. Like as far as like having the ability to kind of traverse between like poetics and the form of journalism, I think that they have it down. So like, I give it to the people that can write in that form. I just realized very early on, I'm just like, yo, this ain't for me.
This ain't for me. That's all it is. It just ain't for me.
For me. And I went to the dean of the J school, and I went to my professors, and I was just like, I don't want to be stuck to the reporting side. I don't want to be stuck to the stratcom side. I kind of want to be in this hybrid. And they let me do that shit. They were just like, oh, okay, yeah, like, just do your required courses and you good. So, like, I think, that's kind of how I got to where I am with documentary specifically, because I was just like, yo, all these things that I'm learning, in the academy and in academia and stuff, like, has to be able to be accessible to the people that I know in real life, because those are the same people that I'm talking about. Like,
no, it's a necessity. I completely get that. Before we get too carried away, let's backtrack a little bit. So why the choice for Uw Madison? And I guess more importantly, why the choice to stay in state? And I don't say choice as in like you made a bad one, but just like obviously I'm assuming that you potentially applied to schools outside of the state. Whether it was just, the simple fact that it was in-state and it was cheaper, what was, the reason for staying in-state and then choosing Madison at that? Yeah,
so, like, I think the main choice for Madison was definitely motivated by two things. I would say one, by the scholarship program I was in. So, shout out to the People program. If y'all got little cousins or family members or brothers and sisters who are in 9th grade, please sign them up for that, and you will know why in a second. But no, I was in my 9th grade year. So my parents didn't go to college, and there's not a lot of men in my family, so it wasn't a lot of men who went to college, obviously, either. So 9th grade, what happened was I did really well in high school. My first year, I did really well. I was like, oh shit, okay. And I did really well, and my history teacher, told my moms at parent teachers conference, like, oh, Madison has this, pre-college program called, People program. And it's funny, like I said earlier, like, I think our parents were always trying to look for something for us to do, whether that was a camp. And I wasn't a sports guy. I'm never going to be a sports guy. So I was definitely not doing no basketball. I definitely wasn't doing anything else. So, like, my mom was just like, okay, cool. So the deal was every summer, so from your freshman year summer to when you graduate high school, every summer you will be in Madison from 3 to 6 weeks, and you will be taking a math class, science class, English class, and doing ACT prep.
Okay.
So, and you know, at first I'm just like, I don't want to go to Madison for 3 weeks. I want to be at the crib. You know,
Right.
I want to be with my high school friends. You know, I
Right.
want to kick it and, you know, be a teenager. And then when I went there and I saw you know, I went there and I thought it was going to be like kind of bougie or stuck up-ish, like, you know, not people that look like me. And I saw a whole bunch of niggas from King. So a whole bunch of niggas from all my best friends that went to King. So like I saw all of them and I saw people that look like me. I saw people who grew up on Keith and I saw people who grew up on Burleigh. You know, like I saw all these people that look like me. I'm like, oh shit, like it looks, this is Milwaukee, we're just here in Madison. So, you know, and we made that program our own. You know, we took that program and was just like, okay, cool. And we have created bonds. Because I think it's different as a teenager, you know. In high school, at least you get to go home. You know, at the end of the day, and you ain't got to talk to your friends in high school if you don't want to. We were essentially living with each other, you know, for, you know, 1 or 2 months. Like, we were living with each other in the same quarters. So I think that kind of bonded us. So that was the first thing. So by the time I finished that program, the deal was you do 3 summers. If you get into Madison, because it's not guaranteed, but if you get into Madison, you get a full ride.
Okay.
So I said, fuck that. Like, of course, like, and mind you, I did apply to other places, but my heart was at Madison. Because, like, at that point, I just made it a home. Like, I had my own kind of separate identity away from my family in another place. Like, which I think is very important for people to do, to be able to leave where you are comfortable and be like, okay, cool, can I make it here? Yeah. So that's what I did. But on top of that, like, I wasn't satisfied with just that. I was just like, no, like what it needs to be is I need to be able to, that's full tuition, but obviously these colleges don't tell you that there's all these hidden fees, all the small shit that they're gonna charge you for. So with that being said, and at that time, it was kind of unfortunate, but it kind of was like a blessing in disguise. My mom had lost her job like my junior year, right before I took my ACT. I'm just like, damn, like, okay, well, now I'm working double time at Culver's. Shout out to Culver's. Y'all my niggas. I love Culver's. But working a lot at Culver's, trying to, you know, thinking I'm trying to do something for the family. Right. my little $7.25 checks ain't really doing nothing. And I'm like, just trying to help out. And my mom, you know, she was so supportive and she was trying to get back into school as well. And, you know, me and my dad were really just trying to help around the house. So what we thought was like, damn, this is a terrible situation for us. End up turning out, you know, that gave me the motivation to apply to an upwards of 10 plus more scholarships. So where by the time I really did accept my offer at Uw Madison, my tuition was covered and every other fee was covered, to where my, you know, everything was good. I wasn't able to, I didn't need to take out any loans. And then what happened was, from me being obedient and then also kind of just being there for my parents and stuff like that, I do think God gave me favor throughout college, because every single year I sent them a tuition check of $0 that they had to pay for every single year after that. Never had to take out a loan. And I'm like, yo, you know, that is crazy. You know, I was like, we don't have it like that. Right. My parents don't have it like that. And I know that if it did come to that, my parents will find the money to do it for me, right? That's what parents do. But I'm just like, nah, y'all good. Right. Y'all focus on other stuff. Y'all be at home. Right. The college stuff is good. I'll send y'all a $0 tuition check every semester. And that's what I did. So that is what really took me to Madison. And that's what and then once I saw that, okay, cool, for the next 4 years, this is an expense they ain't got to worry about. Right. I was just like, let's go, let's do it. And every other college was kind of like, oh yeah, like fuck it.
Man, no, that's super real. And I think that, looking back on it, I don't know if I wouldn't have been mad if I went to school in state. Yeah. And it probably would have been either Madison or Marquette. But both of my parents, my mother specifically, she wasn't so much against the idea of me going in state as much as it was like, I want you to experience something outside of Milwaukee, something outside of Wisconsin, if you can. Like if what you wanted to do and everything fit here. Okay, great. But like, cause my mom didn't leave the city for school, and so she ended up having to go back later, like after she had me and my sister. So she was just like, I want you to get that experience. Right. But you know, Mom was also really big on HBCUs. Like, she was just like, you need to go to an HBCU because it's black people there. Yeah. They know you. They look like you. They more likely to help you out. And I guess like at 18, I felt it, and I didn't understand it, the importance of it then, as I do now. Yeah. I'm not upset about where I went, but I get why as a parent you would want your child to be in an environment like that.
The funny thing about that is, though, I felt the same way, right? But the thing is, I think we tend to forget, or we tend to like look at Milwaukee as not being a black place.
Yeah.
But I'm like, if you think about it, we're a whole bunch of Southern transplants. So like, I think also at the same time, when it was time for me to pick, you know, colleges, I didn't apply to HBCUs. Not because like I didn't think. No, it's no other reason why I didn't apply.
Right.
The main reason was I feel like, I feel very secure in my blackness based on what this city has given me.
Yeah.
Like, we have one of the largest Juneteenth celebrations.
Facts.
Like, and then the cooking is very Southern. Everything from, like, the way we talk. And that's the thing that's, you know, that got me a lot of the times, because a lot of people also tried to push me towards HBCUs, and I love when my friends went. I love when I see people there, because I do think that is such a specific experience that is so beautiful within itself. But I always want people to remember that, like, yo, by the way, Milwaukee is black as fuck.
I think people forget.
They do, and it's fair, because you get caught up in you just get caught up in whatever, like, what the news is telling you about Milwaukee, like.
Man.
But hell no, I fuck with it. I was just thinking, like, we're black as fuck here, and like I felt like I had everything, and I think that's interesting, you know, especially when parents want you to get out of what Milwaukee is, because even in state, Madison is a totally different place.
I can imagine.
Totally different. Like, and even when we went there, you know, at least during the summers, you know, in high school, we were around other black people, to where it was just like, oh yeah, this college shit finna be lit, you know. First day of class in undergrad. You know, okay, me and my niggas, okay, well, I'll see you later. You know, you go into another building, I'm on this side of the campus, and then I walk into a room and I'm the only black person in there, and I'm just like, we all have different majors. We all have different classes. We all have different, you know, before it was kind of, you know, you just with your niggas.
Right.
And then when you start, it's like, oh. So it was a shock, too. So I see how parents are just like, get out. But
no, it's a huge culture shock, and I know for me, you know, I went to Missouri, and there's no Milwaukee, you know, University of Missouri connection. Really, there's no program like so.
I see what you mean.
So for the University of Missouri, a lot of their students come from St. Louis and Kansas City.
I see.
And then Chicago is probably the next biggest hub. But if I'm not mistaken, I think Illinois has reciprocity.
Okay.
In Missouri.
Probably.
So with that being the case, there's a lot, and I think there are different like programs, and there's also a huge alumni presence in Chicago from the University of Missouri, and has been for a while. So, but Milwaukee, like that, like not a thing there for real. Yeah. So I get there, you know, and nobody was worried about me. Like nobody was worried about me individually being able to adapt. But coming from Milwaukee, it was just like nobody really knows where Milwaukee is unless they're from Chicago and they family done been to the Dells.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like fact. But then on top of that, it's like you say Milwaukee, and the first thing people assume is the country. And I'm like, all right, let me tell y'all one thing about Wisconsin first and foremost. You got Wisconsin, and then you got Milwaukee. Yeah, right. And in Milwaukee, that's where all the niggas are. Milwaukee is black. I said Milwaukee is not this farm dairy land that you assume because you know the state for cheese. Milwaukee is where, like, Milwaukee is an hour from downtown Chicago, you know, give or take with traffic. So we know, like, we're not isolated from what's going on in these areas. Like, we ain't nothing but, you know, probably a 6-hour drive from like Detroit. Like, we all probably got family. We crossed the lake, you know what I'm saying? So it's like we know what's happening, but people also didn't know about the city from a historical standpoint. Like, I want to say, I'm not sure which interview this was, but you know, Milwaukee is still one of the most segregated cities in the country. One of the most, and it's documented, one of the most racist cities in the country. So it's not that we're immune to understanding the struggle or, you know, what goes on. And I think that's just a huge misconception. But I know for me, like being on that campus, like you said, I think it was just, and it's nothing you can really be prepared for. But you get there, and it's just one of them things where you just start to quickly see, okay, this is different.
And I can only imagine it was fucked up, like, especially not even having nobody else from Milwaukee there, because, like, at least I had people from Milwaukee, to where if I wanted to use the charisma or language of the city, I could and feel comfortable. Like, I bet if you was banging in the party, these niggas would be like, what the fuck?
The funny thing is, if I knew how to bang for real, I would have been banging in the party. But I was never one of them. I never got the skill down. I barely got the pin drop. Don't ask me to bang.
I
can't
studied
do
a lot. That's all I was. I was a studier.
But the one thing I had to stop using when I got down there, I couldn't say on what.
Yeah, I bet.
Nobody knew. I got down there. Somebody, I'd be like, on what? They'd be like, which on what?
What are you talking
like
about?
on what? I'm like, nah, like on what? Like, and they didn't get it. And I'm like, wow, I really can't. Nobody understands this.
Yeah.
Which was crazy because Milwaukee doesn't have, like, they have lingo, but then if you go to other cities, they don't. Like from like St. Louis has a huge accent, so their R's change everything. So learning that, like KC has their own language, Chicago is a completely different ball game. So little old me coming in there, I'm like, well, just gonna adapt. I'm gonna just to take me a little bit of each, figure out where I can get in and just know how to talk to whoever talking to me. But I'm glad you said that because I just feel like that. I feel like being from Milwaukee, and I love having those conversations because I know for me, I was the sole person kind of exemplifying that, or I was the kind of like the sole representation that a lot of people, at least that I was around for the last 4 to 5 years, saw of Milwaukee. And it's like I don't think y'all understand that, like, this is a mindset. I'm not the lone person that just came from Milwaukee, and I'm the only one that thinks like this. Like, we all have this chip on our shoulder. We all have this like edge where we're just kind of like hungry and fighting in a way, because the city kind of breeds us to have to be like that, because you already kind of have to fend for yourself here.
Of course,
So it makes you even a little bit more prideful and confident when you fending for yourself somewhere else, and you looking at it like, well, shit, the pressures I faced in the city don't even, I mean, what I'm facing here don't even amount to that. So
of course. I think, and like you said, I think it is interesting because I think a lot of people outside of Milwaukee are very confused about Milwaukee people.
Facts.
Like, I think that happened exactly when I moved to LA, and I think that was the first time I seen it up close. That, like, the way we navigate spaces, like you said, we had to be adaptable. Milwaukee is a city of, okay, we're gonna take this, we're gonna take this, we're gonna take this. Like, and not that we're stealing it in any way, but we're taking these things from these places that our ancestors or the people that came before us lived in. So, like, we're taking, we're gonna take Mississippi tradition, we're gonna take Louisiana tradition, we're gonna take Chicago influence, we're gonna take all these things and mix it up into our own. So I do think that when we do leave, people are confused about what Milwaukee is, because we are hungry and then we're very adaptable. So it's like we can be in any room with anybody and adapt to that space very quickly. And I think that, and then that's when we get to, like, the conversations about, like, how do y'all people feel like it comes off as fake, and it's not being fake, it's being adaptable. And I think we do that in such a smooth way as well. Like, we could just literally traverse through different spaces and just be cool and just be chill and not be the center of attention, but we are there still. We're still paying attention, and I think we're just all observers. We're just all thinkers, because we're trying to calculate what is next, how we move, how we get through, and stuff like that. But no one can ever say that somebody from Milwaukee is not loyal, especially when we do leave. Because when we leave, think about, we already know what we have back home. So when we go to these other places, we're not gonna fuck that up. We're not gonna put any type of representation of Milwaukee that's not one of the utmost, like, revere and respect. Like, so it's funny because and my homies in LA, all of my people in LA, when they saw the Heartland, they're just like, oh shit, we get you now. Oh my gosh. Wow. And it's not that they didn't get me before. They got me before, but a lot of them would always say, like, you are different. We don't know what it is yet. We can't put it in. So when they saw the Heartland, they was like, oh shit, y'all went through that? Yeah. Well, that that just happened. That was our childhood, and we had to adapt to it. We had to create our own. So that's why I'm just like, I love that too. Being able to go to the place and be that. Yeah, if I'm gonna be that one representative, I'm gonna just watch y'all, because a lot of y'all tell on yourselves. A lot of y'all tell on yourselves.
Speak on it.
But a Milwaukee person will sit there and just watch and observe in the space and be like, okay, I see exact type of person this person is, because I've dealt with a nigga like that in Milwaukee, or I dealt with somebody like that in Milwaukee. So I already know how to navigate that. I already know how to move against that, and I think. That thanks to our parents for not being too, soft on us. Thank you to our city for providing those challenges, because a lot of other cities don't have that. The Midwest period is just a black experience that I think is very, like, worthy of really exploring, because I don't think people understand what it means to have all 4 seasons.
Cool. So yeah, man, you go to Uw Madison for undergrad, and then you make the decision to go to USC, go out to Cali for grad school. Talk about that experience, man. What was that like?
Yo, USC was number 9 on my grad school list.
That's crazy.
Man, it's funny because, like I said, Madison is a research school.
Right.
So I was in like a, you know me, I'm always getting some type of program because
Right.
I need to know the plan.
Facts.
So I was a Ronald E. McNair scholar where
Okay.
like I would do a research project, and I did a research project about Insecure. So I did like a 22-page paper about Insecure. And the thing is, I was so hell-bent on going to go straight to get my PhD. Right? I'm thinking like I need to be a professor, I need to be a teacher. That's kind of providing some security, one.
Right.
That's providing, you know, some type of, and I know I could do it, I know I could write, I know I have the charisma to be a professor. So I was like, let me do that. My advisor was just like, you should apply to some, you know, master's programs. Cause like, I don't know. And mind you, I was 22 at the time. So they're just like, I don't know how many PhD programs are going to be excited about a 22-year-old, you know, going straight to get a PhD in film studies. Right. So I said, okay, whatever. I applied to, you know, master's programs or whatever. And, so I applied to USC kind of not last minute, but it was kind of like a last minute decision. It was number 9 out of 10 on my list. So it was just, you know, okay, USC, you know, I had a friend and like a big sister who went there for journalism for her master's, and my advisor was her advisor. So she was just like, just apply for the film program and see. I was like, so I go on USC's page and it's like #1 film school, you know, all this other stuff. Name #1 film school again. I'm just like, oh hell no, this is gonna suck. I don't know about this. So, but I had faith in my resume. I had faith in everything that I had. So I had the materials. So I said, let me just turn it in. Within a month, I get in to USC. That was the first school to ever accept me. So if I get into USC. The first thing that comes to my mind is money, because I'm just like, how the fuck am I finna pay? Because, you know, I already finessed undergrad. How am I gonna do this?
Right.
On that phone call, she the first thing that they said was, yo, you know, we want to offer you acceptance into the, you know, the upcoming class at USC, but also because I didn't go for production, I didn't go for editing, I didn't go for producing, I didn't go for nothing else. I went for cinema media studies because I went for research. There's like, oh, we'll fund you. Everything.
Oh, wow.
Plus health insurance. Plus dental insurance. Plus a stipend.
Jesus.
Based on the fact that I had the ability to talk about film and research film. And I could teach film. So they was like, the first thing that will happen is you will, 1, be funded. 2, you'll be able to teach film formally to undergrads.
Wow.
And then you'll get a stipend for that. And I said, what? Like, y'all, like, and then I looked at God, because I was like, you gotta be kidding. Like, you gotta be kidding me, bro. Like, again, like, you're doing this, like, again. Like, you did it once before with undergrad, and I knew that was a blessing, and I'm grateful for it, and I took advantage of those years for free. But then you're gonna do the same thing for grad school. There's something. That is something. So I did that, and when I tell you, I got into USC and I kept that shit to myself for a bit. Obviously, I told my frat and I told my best friends, but other than that, I kind of kept it to myself. But the other schools that I applied to, the PhD programs, started rejecting me. So I applied to UW Madison for a PhD program, and Madison rejected me.
Wow.
And I hit up my advisor because her husband was on the committee. So I hit up my advisor. I was just like, "Yo, what? Like, what's going on?"
What's happening?
And her husband got on a phone call with me, and they were basically just like, after we saw that you got into USC, we already knew we couldn't provide you shit. Like, they were just like, they literally told me, they said, it's not that you weren't qualified. They said, we want you. Of course, we would want to have you. But there's just like, after we saw that USC accepted you, what they were giving you and what they were providing you, we knew that we couldn't give you any of that. We couldn't give you a camera if we wanted to. We couldn't give you, you know what I mean? I'm just like,
guy, yo, that's nothing but like.
But you know, the funny thing, what they said was this too. They said, and mind you, we could have made it work, but we know if we would have accepted you, you would have stayed. And that's the problem.
That's real.
And I said,
that's hella real.
I said, damn. I said, oh, y'all were plotting then. Like, that was a plot to get me out. Because they knew, Madison knew. They were just like, if we accepted you, you would have stayed here.
Yeah.
And you would have did amazing work. You know what I mean? Like, I probably still would have found my way to succeed there, but the level of artistry that I'm at now would have never been achieved if I stayed here. Man. So, like, I left, and now, you know, the first time I left, when I went to LA, that was the second time I ever been there. The first time was for a campus visit.
Right.
The second time was when me and my parents went out there for me to move. And that was my parents' first time out there.
Wow.
So, yeah, I immediately after undergrad, I was like, okay, I'm going to grad school at USC for cinema and media studies to get my master's. And, like, you know, I started the program, and it's only 3 black people out of at least 18 students. And I'm just like, that shit is crazy.
Yeah.
Like, it was so wild to me, and I'm so grateful for, like, not only direction and kind of like purpose, because I do think that when God is telling you something, like, you need to be doing this thing. Don't worry about the money. Don't worry about how it's gonna happen or when it's gonna happen. Please, literally, don't worry about none of that shit, because I will literally show you, and I will give you an opportunity. You're not gonna sit up here and tell me. Like, I was telling him, like, I would love to be a filmmaker, but I'm not ready for that. I would love to, do film and teach and do research at the same time, but I'm not ready for that. I just need to go get a PhD. You know, so that shit happened. And, it's been up ever since.
Man, dog, that is a crazy story. But you talk about something being meant for you. You talk about having... And what's crazy about the Uw Madison part is that what's so crazy about that is that's a deep love and respect for somebody in general. Like, you can twist that can twist that situation however you want to. Yeah. When somebody has enough respect and they see enough in you to be like, you've got this, you've already been essentially promised or guaranteed this, there's no reason for us giving you a cushion. There's no reason us giving you something to fall back on because it's easier. You have to do that, you know. And I think that when you've seen so many people try to pull people down, especially when you talk about the black community, especially more specifically when you talk about black men, when an opportunity like that presents itself and you have people. And like you said, you were like, my advisor, her husband on the committee, like, hold on, what's going on, bro? But they literally like, yo, like, that's where you need to be. And I just think that's amazing because, like you said, there's no way you would be the filmmaker you are, the person who you are now, if you don't take that opportunity. And mind you, that's only, a year and a half, 2 years there. But even then, I can only imagine how much that has even really, shaped where you are. So I really want to get into this, and I really want you to break it down to whatever most minuscule level you can. But the Heartland film, man, just take me through everything. Take me through it all. The conception of the idea, the process of putting it together, and then where you're at now with it.
Yeah, so like I said, like my 2 years at LA radically changed my life. I was introduced to so much shit that. I honestly do feel like, though, if I stayed here, I would have got there at some point. I would have got to this level of artistry and got to this level of mindset and mindfulness at some point. But I do think me going to LA, it just made it quicker. Right. That process was quicker. But the Heartland, what happened was COVID. COVID happened. I was in my last semester of graduate school. And at that point, I was on a roll. I was feeling myself. I accepted who I was as a media scholar, and I was just I felt comfortable in my skin. I felt comfortable about where I was from, and bringing that to every space I entered. I was just comfortable, and that's the thing. I got too comfortable, but I was comfortable enough to where God was just like, So what happened? So what happened was, it was around the time, November of 2019, and I was, I'm getting ready to graduate, and I'm just like, yo, okay, should I stay in LA? Or something, I don't know what it is, but something is telling me to go back home. Something is telling me to go back to the crib. I don't know why. There's nothing really, and this is my mindset coming from a career standpoint. I'm just like, there's nothing there, at the moment for me in film that I could possibly do that isn't already taken up. And I don't want to, take up space from anybody. So I'm already no, but there's so much here in LA. So I prayed and I manifested. I was just like, yo, if it's meant for me to go back to the crib, then I'll go back to the crib. But if not, I'm gonna make it work in LA.
Right.
I do think God did it in the most dramatic way with COVID.
Right.
but when it came down to it, COVID happened and things just started happening where like the little, I was a resident assistant and that gig kind of got shut down because they were just like, all right, nope,
Facts,
no more resident assistants. Okay, housing got shut down. Gotta leave. And my parents are just like, bring that ass home. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to come home. And what happened was like, I didn't ask any questions. I didn't doubt. I didn't worry. I didn't admit any negative energy about that decision. I just had to do it. I just had to go. So I came back home, and the first thing that I think about anytime I'm doing a film, or anytime I'm kind of conceptualizing a film, is like, what is my connection to that thing?
Right.
So whether it, is a connection to my grandmother that inspired me to do Blind Spot, or a connection to my city, like Heartland. I came back to the city and I was just like, yo, I love this place. Like, and I think when you do leave, you come back and you see how pretty it is. You see our horizons, you see our sunsets, you see our sunrises, you see the water, you see all these things. And I'm just like, oh, I've had access to this beauty for so long, but all these other things like the media and the news and white people have really clouded my judgment of my city. And I had to take a step back and be like, oh shit, look at what we have. And I think it was talking to my little cousins, and all of them are just, just like, I can't wait to leave here. I can't wait to get out of Milwaukee, yada, yada, yada. And I'm just like, you're 9, you're 10. Like, what do you, why are you so excited to leave? And then I had to think about it. I was doing that shit.
Yeah.
Like, that is what I was doing. And then I did leave, right? So I'm just like, damn. No black child should ever have to be thinking about that shit at 9 or 10 years old.
Yeah.
And then obviously the civil unrest that happened during the summer.
Right.
Obviously with the protests, especially in the Midwest, that were just activated during that time. And I just instantly saw all these mind you, the young folk are the movement. The young black kids are the movement right now.
Facts.
But again, we don't have normal childhoods. I was thinking about the fact that at 10, 11, 12, my little cousins have to think about this such a politicized moment.
Yeah.
And then I thought about it for us. I'm like, well, goddamn, we went through the same thing. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and we went through it without social media being so big. We went through it without it being broadcast so much. We went through it with it being like enacted. Like, we couldn't go to restaurants. We couldn't go to some type of, we had to have a fucking ID to go skating. And then like we couldn't, like it was just like small shit like that. Like we couldn't go to the movies at a certain time. We couldn't be at the mall after a certain time. Man. And like, and I started to think about that shit. And then immediately I started thinking about Alexis Patterson. I said, yo, wait, that fucked me up. Like, and nobody asked kids how we felt about that. It was just like, okay, for me at least, it was like, okay, bet. Now what you're going to do is you're going to wake up 2 hours earlier before school so I can take you to your great-grandmother's house so that you can ride the bus with your cousins so that I don't have to worry about who is around you. I'm just like, damn. Not only are y'all like, so like I had to, all that shit came up because I was just like, yo, okay, no, I have to talk about this city because I do think there's such a complicated relationship. But then on the flip side, I'm like, yeah, all that terrible shit happened. But then I had to think about the joyous shit. I had to think about the shit that we made out of that. Like, okay, we're gonna go into an empty gymnasium and have a fucking dance wars. Like we're going to we can't go to the mall, so fuck it. We're gonna get some paint supplies and some empty fucking t-shirts and dip our shit. Like we're gonna make our own shit. Like, and I had to think about. You
made a dip shirt?
Hell no. I did not have that. But again, I observed.
I had one.
My thing is, I was just very much observant. Mm-hmm. I knew at the time, I said, I don't think dip shirts are for me. Right. I don't think I was a dip shirt kid. I wasn't meant to be. I let everybody else have it. I did not judge, because them shits is terrible now. But but that is also a product of us not being able to, like, we can't go to the mall and buy shit now, so what else are we supposed to do? Like, so then that's when we created our own lingo. That's when we created our own style, the way we wear things, like the way that we moved. Everything became about us creating something for ourselves. And then that's why I was just like, okay, I gotta do the Heartland. I gotta make something that is a love letter, because I think, and I immediately thought of a love letter, because a love letter is not just about love. It can be about heartbreak. It can be sad.
Yeah.
It can a love letter can encompass everything that encompasses love, which is not always good shit. So and then I kind of figured out, I was like, oh shit, we got like a unrequited love with this city, where we love it. Does it love us back? Sometimes when it wants to. when it wants to, it does. But at most time, it doesn't. But within that, how do we choose to survive? How do we choose to make things for ourselves? And I had to look back and be like, okay, you know, we had some fucked up shit happen, but look what we made out of nothing. Like, and now we're living in it, and now we are the ones that are kind of like, and a lot of us have came back. That's another thing too. Like we left, we left, and then we came back. And now we're back here, and I'm just like, I don't want my little cousins to ever grow up in this city and not know that, hey, you may not be given everything that you want or everything that you need, but best believe there's a community where you can figure out how to build your shit up, how you can make it, here. You don't gotta go to LA to feel like you made it. You can make it in Milwaukee. You just gotta believe in yourself. You gotta see also what happened beforehand. And I think with the Heartland, you know, I was talking to my dad, and my dad was just like, yeah, you know, growing up in Milwaukee, we had this, we had playgrounds, we had this, and that, and I'm like, we didn't have that. We didn't have that, and we didn't have that and felt safe, you know what I mean? Like, and I'm glad that they had that, but then again, like, if you don't know what came before you, there's no way for you to be able to even conceptualize what you can do at the current moment. So, all of that to say that was the Heartland. That's kind of what led me to doing the film for real, and being like, okay, what can we find out? What can we see? Yeah,
and that, man, you touched on so much. Like, and I definitely didn't want to interrupt. There's so many just parts about the city. Like you said probably what stood out the most. You said Alexis Patterson like still fucks you up. I think the first thing that really kind of fucked me up and just had me looking like, yo, like, bro, like that literally could be me was Trayvon Martin. Yeah. And I think like to be in high school, to be 16, and at 16, I don't know, at 16 it's kind of like, especially for black men, things just start becoming a little bit more clearer. Like you just a little bit. I feel like 16 is really the start, kind of depending, where things become almost obviously transparent that we are targets. Yep. We are ostracized in a lot of ways. Yep. And I'm looking at the Trayvon situation like, yo, like, how many times do you and your little cousins run to the store up the street just to get some? Yeah. And you just don't know what happens in a span of 2 blocks. You never can know.
10 minutes.
Like 10 minutes. He's in a gated community. So I think that was the first time I was kind of like, yo, like, that could happen to me walking 2 blocks to the store. Like that could happen to me up the block from my grandma's house. Like it can happen anywhere. And you just think about the times like you done ran 2 blocks from the crib, like not thinking nothing of it. Yeah. And you just become more and more cognizant of all that. So I think, man, that's just to know and understand that so much went behind telling, and we, like you just said all of that, right? Yeah. And still I feel like the film only showed just such a small part, portion, such a small portion of everything. It's like it just kind of, in a way, it makes, for me, it's always something that reminds me of why I'm prideful of being from here, and why I feel like I'm the only one that can talk shit on Milwaukee. You know what I'm saying? I talk shit on Milwaukee all day, but when it comes to somebody else, like, nah, like, that's my city. You know, like, it's a lot to be proud of, and everybody that comes from there, you know, is they got something to prove, and they gonna prove it. You know, so it's just one of them things, man. That's like I said, there's so much in there that could be expanded on and touched on, but again,
and that's the point too, right? Like, I think it is very fucked up that black kids have to always be, or like, it's fucked up that black kids have to conceptualize death at such an early age. Man. Like, either if it's friends, family, anything, or like the news, the media telling you, it is fucked up that black kids have to conceptualize death in the ways that we have to conceptualize it. And then on top of that, you know, you have these white kids in Whitefish Bay having normal teenage lives,
Yeah.
like falling in love, having crushes,
Right.
like you sneaking out, having fun, like all these other things that we were not allowed to do. Yeah, of course, when we go to Northtown, we're gonna kick it in the fucking lobby before we go to a movie because
Right.
all our friends are there. Why are we being policed? Why do I need to have an ID to go skating?
Right.
You know, like all these different things. This city was kind of programming us to already see that we were not worthy of living full, expansive lives where we made mistakes,
Right.
lives where we weren't always right, but lives where we were also able to just enjoy what the fuck we were doing. So like that's when it did come to the Heartland, and that's at the end of the day, the Heartland is just one film. Like
Right.
I want other people, like, and I'm only one person also in Milwaukee, so like let it be known that there are so many other stories. There's so many other multitudes and magnitudes of people that exist here that like let the Heartland be just one film, and let whoever else wants to feel inspired to do this shit. Yeah, make another documentary specifically about Damon. Make one documentary specifically about Alexis. Do that for real, because I think we need it. But like, if the Heartland is gonna be just one film to kind of inspire people to do all the other shit about this city that deserves to be talked about, and that's the thing. People think that Milwaukee ain't got nothing to talk about.
Man,
the stories here are crazy.
It's ridiculous.
Are ridiculous. Like, you know, and not only do we have access to them, they're in our community, and no one else is talking about this shit.
Yeah.
And no one else is talking about it in a visual way.
Right.
Like, I think we talk about it in passing, we talk about it in our friends and communication, but what does it look like to make it visual? So that's kind of just been my goal. And it's hard to say, but a lot of people that do leave, they like to stay where they are, and it's no shade to that. Like, honestly, like, if you love where you are and how you're growing, then do it. When I was in LA, I realized I can't, everything that I was trying to do in LA was about Milwaukee. I can't make LA look like Milwaukee ever.
Right. Never.
Like,
yeah.
no matter how much production design I include or how many sets I try to make or create, I cannot make it feel like Milwaukee unless I'm here. So I had to make that choice to be like, I could be there, and I could be going through that circuit of Hollywood, but I'm not. I don't want to. Not to say that I don't value it, because I think it's valuable in a lot of different aspects. But there's something here that has to be told. That if I'm just one person that tells everybody else, hey, everybody else pick up a fucking camera and just record shit, then do that. Like, let's do it then.
Man, that's. I couldn't say it better, bro. I definitely love that you mentioned that yours is only one story. Like, there are so many other stories in the city, and I really do hope that other people take the time to tell their story and find an avenue to, because there's
a way.
There's a way, some way, somehow. Man, but I got two more questions for you. Like, I hate even feeling like it got to be wrapped up, but you know, I got two more questions for you. So the first one being, so, you know, where are you at now? What's next? You know, what are you currently doing? What do you feel like the next steps or next project will be for you?
Yeah. So currently, I just am a full-time independent filmmaker. I'm honestly blessed and grateful that I can live this life to be able to just do film kind of full-time. I was kind of worried that I would need to be in like the corporate space. Right. And I'm not no 9-to-5 nigga, y'all. And it's not that I can't be. I just capitalism sucks, but that's a whole nother conversation. So I am grateful that I can be able to do film full time. So that's what I'm doing. I'm just I'm developing another film at the moment, which I'm hella excited about. Won't give y'all too much on that, but it is being made. Something is happening. But other than that, I'm just open to working with folks in the city who are ready to tell their stories in the way that they are. So I'm open and available for hire. I direct, I edit, so feel free, anybody in the city, to hit me up if you want any work done. And then, yeah, other than that, I'm chilling with my family. I'm kicking it. I'm relaxing. I'm staying safe because COVID is real as fuck. Wear y'all mask.
Please.
But I'm just kicking it. I'm really enjoying. I've been away from home for 6 years. Last time I lived in Milwaukee was when I was 18. So it's been really cool to relearn my parents, relearn my family, relearn my friends, and I just been really enjoying it. New Year's, I did nothing. I went to sleep.
Look, I feel like everybody went to sleep.
I went to sleep, and it was lovely. I feel like I didn't miss a goddamn thing.
Right.
So that's what I've been doing. That's what I've been on. I want to kind of be as present as possible in this moment. There's so much going on in the world that I think a lot of shit can distract us. So I'm just really on this tip of just being present. So that's what I've currently been on.
That's real, man. And last but certainly not least, we've talked about your journey as a man and as a filmmaker. This entire interview, and just with all that being said and everything that you've touched on in this interview, what would you say makes you as a filmmaker, and I definitely want to add as a black man, just in general, qualified?
Yeah, I think what makes me qualified is that as a filmmaker and as a man, I think I'm always searching for truth. And I'm always hoping that I speak truth. And I think those are two things that like are very, very important as a documentary filmmaker, and then also as a black man. I cannot lie to myself. I cannot lie to my people. But then even then, one of my friends, we just talked about this shit yesterday, his name is Jordan Hamilton. I want to be able, I think I'm qualified because my whole journey is about me finding myself and finding the answers to all these big ass questions I have through film. That's like my medium that I'm using it. But I want to show people, I want to show black kids specifically, that the way that I'm doing it is a structure and an option. So like, here is a structure that you could follow, and here's an option that you can take. It is not law that you use film as therapy. Actually get a therapist. But it is not, it is not by law that you have to use art as a form of expressing yourself. Or like, there's other things that you can do, but I want to be able to show black kids, especially in this city, that film can be a structure and it can be an option for like a radical revelation of who you may be, and how you may be able to be in service to your community and our collective liberation.
Man, I have nothing else to add. He said it best. Definitely take heed. No, but for real, definitely take heed to everything that's been said. If you are from Milwaukee, I hope there was a great appreciation that you give from this interview. If you are not from Milwaukee, this is Milwaukee for you, virtually, or one side of it. Definitely make sure you follow this man. We will have his information and social media information up there for you all to follow. The Heartland film you cannot view yet, but when it is available everywhere,
I promise y'all, it's coming. It's coming.
When it is available everywhere, best believe Qualified will definitely be one of the first to be promoting it and pushing it out. Thank you again, my brother. Man. I want to thank Dante again for the connection, but thank you for taking the time to do this interview. Thank you for sharing your story, your expertise, just everything that comes with you for this. And man, until the next Qualified interview, y'all.
Thank you for having me.
Of course, man.
All right.
All right.
Peace out.
Peace.